I'm struggling heavily with people, especially of my age group, who are still using the word freedom, who have not graduated from that space to a more profound, if not nobler, space of liberation. When I grew up, my mother was Pan-Africanist inclined, and she talked about freedom, that freedom is coming. And there was this musical, Freedom is Coming. And the likes of Mandela spoke of freedom. Mandela and his peers spoke of freedom. His peers stretching even to the days of Nkrumah. They spoke of freedom. Of Jomo Kenyatta. They spoke of freedom. They had inherited the word freedom even from those who were once slaves. When they left the master's plantation, they called it freedom. They were free to go and inhabit any space elsewhere, to have their own kind of job and be paid a salary. That was freedom. They were free to preach from their own churches without the master dragging them to court on Monday for preaching that slave nonsense and singing those slave songs, nonsensical songs like freedom, freedom over me. Before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Before they could be dragged, they were no more dragged to go and account for that. So they called that freedom. And the word freedom was popularized for former slaves, even Sojourner Truth, Black Moses, did not talk of liberation. Not even Du Bois talked about liberation. Not even Marcus Garvey talked of liberation. Not even when I was growing up, Muhammad Ali talked of freedom, of liberation. The talk of liberation came later, very strongly with the likes of Steve Biko, when they discovered that we are not cutting the chains for freedom, but we are cutting the chains on the mind and the soul for liberation. Up until this day, we are in a mess because of freedom. The concept freedom, people thought they were getting freedom in 1994. Freedom to make louder noise in the street. Freedom to make louder noise in the office. You had the likes of Tokyo Sexwale even buttressing this, stamping on this by saying women are free with their bodies. I do subscribe to that. But you had to put it in context. What did you mean? Also, did you mean they are free to walk naked now because it is freedom time? And it has so contaminated the minds of our people. The sooner they have little money, they own a very big car. And the families are not as large as our families before. They're driving in a big car to coerce people on the road, to scare off people, the other road users. They can't select a suitable car for for themselves and their three children. They have to appear. Oh my Lord, let me go on. Let me go on and go on. Young ladies were talking this morning about dressing up to kill when they go to funerals. I have stayed in the township. My heart has bled. Women have got special attire for funerals. When people are weeping, they come and celebrate. The after tears, at one time very innocent, corner in which friends have a sip and a thought because they remember their friend and they talk some stories and anecdotes around the one who has fallen. It is now a showcase. People even go and buy new clothing for a funeral. In some cases, they attend so dressed up to kill was the phrase used when I was growing up. I'm not sure they're still using it. But they dress up to kill for a person that they don't know. They're just invited to a funeral and they go there. And it has its own, I have observed, it has its own merits, like networking, people network, and so on. But some of the demerits are terrible in the townships where shebeens thrive every time there's a funeral, where the women go and drink themselves to pieces before they go home. Home where they might find their children stolen, where they might find their children outraged, stalling in funerals after tears. Then there was a time of dressing up to church, and it was part of freedom, exaggerated now after 1994, where an usher wears the meanest of skirts. And I asked the pastor, why do we have such an usher who is flashing her thighs all around the church? And the pastor said, if I caution her, rebuke her, even her parents will be upon me with bricks and bats to say, what were you looking at? Pastor, why were you not preaching? What were you looking at? Freedom, people think it is the right to make noise in government offices, to hail each other as Mpinchia, my leader, and all the trash that has come with politics. Freedom actually came to rub off the word politics as well. People who talk of liberation never talk of freedom because they talk of something deep that goes into the mind and the soul and cleans up a person, not wash up the person's face. If freedom washes you up, washes your face up, and freedom gives you some deodorant, liberation gives you power to appear as something solid and noble, and your vibrations can reach many people very meaningfully when they look at you because you are liberated. You don't talk cheap talk. And I'm not saying people should not joke anymore, but there's difference between joking with your peers and cheap talk. Cheap talk thrives in the world of freedom. In the world of freedom, even in the US, where people first spoke more about freedom, that's when you began to hear people singing like that Carter fellow, just forgotten his name. Carter, not the President Carter, but Carter, who used to sing about bedroom issues. That Carter fellow. You'll forgive me because I'm not talking from notes. You know, maybe as I continue speaking, Clarence Carter. That's how my memory picks from time to time. Clarence Carter. And there was another. Freedom is to move away from your people. Like this other judge called Clarence, who moved from a traditional black people's political party, the Democratic Party, to go to the Republicans. That is freedom. But in liberation, you don't have a choice. You don't even have to have a label. In liberation, you don't have to be afraid that you are no more ANC, that you are no more AZAPO, you are no more PEG. In liberation, you can bring a breath of fresh air wherever you are. You bring newness. You resuscitate the half dead, and you bring the dead back from the graves. If I have to use that metaphor that Jesus brought people out of the graves, for me, it's just a metaphor, of course, that the lame could walk. That's not a metaphor, it's a possibility. That they could sing a new song. Yes, I still sing a new song, but that is more of liberation. To speak your language with pride, your own mother tongue with pride. To go about socializing with in your own mother tongue. Not apologizing because you have broken English. You know, the Afrikaner, if they break, they don't have a word. They say in Afrikaans, it says this. It's permissible. But you can't even dare say in isiZulu, in Sesotho, it means this. We say this. And even try to translate afterwards for the benefit of those who are not speaking that language. Freedom is about trying to impress all the time. Try to outpreach each other from the pulpit, those who are in the pulpit, competing around sermons. It is about snitching, plagiarizing material from sermons from others outside of your experience, instead of reading them and contextualizing them in your own context. Oh no, You want to sound like them out there who will never be able to sound like